Good evening, and welcome to the Fanatics of Film. Tonight we're going to be discussing our review of Better Call Saul, Episode 4 of Season 4, or S04E04. Talk.
S04E04.
I'm Joe, and as always, I'm here with Ben.
John Benson at your service. So this episode was full of surprises. I thought for sure he was going to turn down the cell phone service job and go right to his crime thing and fear. But it took him a minute to get back to that. So that was really interesting. I'm surprised. I found it surprising that he actually went back to that.
Yeah, no, lots of real interesting that Saul turned down that thing, but then a job offer, but then put himself in a position where he used it as a lie, so he had to take him up on that offer. But I like how there were nice. It seems to be like there's about 3 subplots going on in each episode. Yeah. Lately.
Well, okay. So first of all, this episode made me realize how the attention to detail of what of the early 2000s is like. How they read with doing that cell phone store and everything, just like it is early 2000s. And you mentioned the big old brick phone that Mike has.
Yeah, Mike's using the old Motorola brick phone. It was like circa. Well, I think right now on the show it's like 2003 or 2004 or maybe 2005. And I guess it was 2006, right? No. Anyways, just that phone just reminded me of like Mike's probably had that phone since like '98. You know what I mean? Like it was big ass Motorola. Like haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Made me think of like the satellite phones.
Yeah, it was like an old sat phone. Just it's like in Night at the Roxbury. Like boys, don't forget your phones, and they huge.
I remember back in the early 2000s, someone was telling me these sat phones, they're the way of the future, man. This is what this is what it's going to be. This is what it's really going to be. And then of course that went away.
Well, then phones got smaller and smaller, and then eventually we put computers in them. So, but
and then they just got bigger and bigger as people watched porn on them.
Yeah. So. Now they're basically when is a tablet going to become a phone? When are they going to include that? Can you hear me now? You know what I mean? But yeah, really good episode. Kind of a subtler episode.
Yeah,
I mean, there's one awesome, spoiler alert, just one awesome set piece of violence in this thing, and the rest is character driven and dialogue driven. And it's I really enjoyed this episode.
You were thoroughly entertained by the judge.
Yeah,
forgive me.
Guest star Ethan Phillips, being a Trekkie or Trekker. No, I'm a Trekkie. I'm old school. Being a Trekkie like Ethan Phillips and his head back there used to play Neelix on Star Trek Voyager. Before that, he was on Benson with Renee Auberjonois, who would play and wound up playing Odo in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Some Star Trek nerd trivia for you. But to see him as a guest star on a show like this, and the way he brought kind of a sort of humorous authority, which is kind of what I've grown to expect from that actor. It was really nice. It was like when I saw him in the Coen Brothers film Inside Llewyn Davis. You're like, wow, Ethan Phillips is in a Coen Brothers movie. That's great. So
go over this scene here. Like this scene to me kind of went over my head a little bit. Can you get into the detail of what was he threatening her with?
So
he kind of
Kim Wexler goes to the county courthouse or the city courthouse and is sitting in observing the judge at work, and he asks if she has any business there, and she says no, she's just observing. So he pulls her into his office, and I think the basic idea was that he's telling her not to troll for work.
Right.
This job she's doing representing Mesa Verde is
does he use the word troll? I can't remember.
No.
Okay.
This that would before that was back then. Trolls were still known as fictional things that lived under bridges and scared small children, much like I do during dates. But why am I hands back grabbing it? But no, he's basically, and then he kind of threatens to, if you show up back and don't come around here looking for work, But if you do show...
But that was the big deal, is that she's looking for a job, basically? I mean, is that kind of what's happening?
Well, he asked her point blank, and she said she was just observing. She didn't give an answer as to really why she's there.
But what do you think she was doing? Was she really looking for kind of work there, or what do you think?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm speculating, but I think she is there kind of asking for work, but just doesn't want to say it or doesn't want to ask.
Interesting.
But he did threaten that, if she shows up again, he's going to put her to work because they're short on public defenders right now and the cases are overflowing. And he as a public judge, does he have an authority just to say he literally can just appoint her? I think so.
Is that kind of something that's real?
I think so.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know enough about law.
Well, it seems that way. They sure make it seem that way. Because her response, if I remember correctly, was understood. Literally like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That was kind of what.
And then she winds up right there in right after the recess where he brought her to his office and says, get out of here. Good luck. If you come back, then I'll put you to work. And then she's there. And
she's been completely just barely been reprimanded by this guy. But is she literally just trying to? Is she trying to push his buttons, or is she just literally still trying to look for work, or does she just not care?
I don't know. Kim's a very independent character, so
really
it's
weird.
It could just be surely out of spite. I don't know. We still haven't had a resolution to how she was affected by Chuck's letter to Jimmy from the last episode, and her reaction to
that's right
to Jimmy in the beginning of the episode, saying that he might want to talk to a therapist. Something's happening emotionally, and I've probably missed something along the way of why she's doing this. But it's like most things on this show, it's not obvious.
So part of this is making me second guess about how I believe, if I really believe that Saul is changing, and because to me personally, it's like, is he just turning off his emotions? Is he just? I mean, that's what it seems like to me. It seems like he just literally he's making a conscious decision to not care about anything, or just to emotionally remove himself from things. Like particularly that scene where he's brushing his teeth and he's just like, oh, so what's going on? And she tells him about the shrink. She's like, I got somebody for you, type of thing. And I mean, he literally, to avoid that, he decides to just go to work to avoid going to the shrink.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you agree with me on that?
I think that this is part of his shift into becoming Saul Goodman.
But do you require more explanation? Because to me personally, for a minute, I'm actually, now that I think about it out loud, that I'm thinking, and it does feel that way.
I think in a way that they'll probably give you a roundabout, because we're seeing him close himself off and isolate himself from characters, especially like Kim. I don't think that it necessarily will need to be explained where he says, I'm becoming this character or because of this, but I think that we're starting to see more and more choices that he's made that haven't really worked for him, and it's sort of like it's a defense mechanism for Jimmy.
I think it'll be the most interesting for me personally is rewatching all of these seasons and seeing. But just to me, I need more of a reason for him to be completely switching over.
Oh, we'll see that. For sure.
I hope we do, and I hope we get more of that. But just right now, I'm kind of not believing it a little bit. So, anyway,
it hasn't become overnight. I mean, over the last 4 seasons, we've seen each season. The first.
Do you feel like it's been gradual? Do you feel like
I absolutely do.
Okay.
In the first couple of seasons, Jimmy actually tried to be legitimate and tried to be a legitimate attorney.
Yeah.
But then he has this gift of being able to con and manipulate people and use his words, which he uses so well. And each time it's kind of had disastrous consequences. So I think each season where he attempted something and failed, and then being rejected by Chuck and HHM and all those kind of things, and having to rebuild his relationship with Kim. Yeah, I definitely think he's been shutting off more and more each season and just kind of falling in line to the con man mentality, which is basically he's the most important thing in his life.
Interesting, because it feels less subtle to me. It feels less gradual to me. But maybe I just need to see it again. So anyway, this moment you mentioned specifically, this moment was interesting because he's basically, or at least kind of lost it on this chance for this woman here. I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like she really digs him. And
Mike in the support group, it looks like this gal actually kind of has a thing for him. She, asking him if she wants to skip the group tonight and go to a shindig or whatever. But he kind of blows that. His subplot this season was
really
this
weird.
subplot this episode was his storyline. This episode, they're all good, but his was especially compelling. You got to see him in the social group setting, which is probably the highlight of the whole episode for me. Was his scene, seeing kind of a personal life outside of the family and the danger, and then of course getting together with Gus at the end.
yeah,
And work at the what's it called?
well, you're talking about
The company that he's
Madrigal.
Madrigal, yeah. So
Electro Madrigal. That's
Yeah.
the new one.
I would not want Mike as a superior, as a supervisor, as a
Him
boss.
check everything. That was
Just
actually,
that general demeanor, like everything you say and do is going to be stupid because he's just going to cut you down.
well, because that's what like everything that they had had inspected. Part of me wanted to see more of him kind of just scare the living crap out of these people, but I'm glad they had moved on by that and just having him inspect the Madrigal places.
Yeah.
I was surprised to not see Lydia in this episode. It was very interesting because after this scene, we see Saul getting his doing his thing and setting up the place and just being disappointed with his really boring day. I was actually really surprised to see. I didn't think that we're going to get more of him in this episode, and when they finally brought him back, has that country montage and him painting the window and everything, and
Yeah.
kind of what did you call it? Making sure that people know that the man's not listening. It's your burner phone.
Yeah, it's basically. I love how we were talking about this during the episode. Well, because we'd gotten so far into it, it's like, I guess he made the money from selling that, from having that long-haired bearded dude steal the figurine in the last episode to sell. We were both just like, well, I guess they sold it. There's no resolution. And And then they offered a resolution. They showed Jimmy go and collect his cash, and it was something that the guy said, the guy who he had worked with to steal this thing, said about how he's, if he has any more work, give him a call or call the dentist to get his number, because apparently he changed his number every new job he gets a different. And that just put the idea into Saul's working at this cell shop that's just dead, no work. So he figures out, here's how we'll sell phones. We'll basically tell people, get your burner phones here.
Yeah.
But we won't say that. So I love how he wrote it. I love that whole montage and watching him paint on the windows.
That was great. That was very reminiscent of Breaking Bad, but still in its own thing. And there are moments where you're going, this is... I mean, normally it'd be odd to say that this is the same episode, but the same episode where we saw the two Salamanca twins destroy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was a moment in there that was very Grand Theft Auto 5 to me, or Grand Theft Auto in general. Just very like balls to the wall, people just walking in, shooting up the place, and slitting throats, and blood splatter, and explosions, and it was pretty cool. Although in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, probably about 2 minutes into this 4-minute firefight, you'd probably start to hear some sirens going off somewhere, but whatever. It worked. It was entertaining.
And this was the scene that we're talking about. This is the Nacho scene. Nacho was it's all from his perspective. Just hearing all that is actually a little bit more horrifying, and see the look on his face. Yeah. And seeing the two twins do the stabbing and jumping in here.
Yeah. And then eventually he has to jump in there in order to maintain the facade that this isn't a carefully orchestrated territorial takeover by Gus. I love how Gus. So you realize what Nacho did, and now he's using Nacho as a pawn. Now that Don Hector is in the coma, it's like Gus is going to move in, and he's going to take over, but he's going to do it by territory, by pitting the Salamancas against these other territories, which ties into the last episode so well. I like how this season, basically, it feels like it's just one really long movie, because they're the series of events, and I think most seasons are like this, but it seems to be, this season in particular, and maybe I'm wrong, but there's no real passage of time. It's like the events are taking place like right after one another. In some of the earlier seasons, things might be a few days later or even a week later. You know what I mean? But this is just a series of progressive events.
It's very smoothly connected. But I am sorry to say this, but I am terrified, absolutely terrified for Nacho because oh my goodness, man, this guy, he's caught, like you said, like you were saying before, he's caught in between these two things now. He's literally having to just and I remember distinctly last episode when that doctor was taking care of him. That was last episode, right? When he was basically turning green in this poor vet. The vet, yes. When basically telling him, basically saying that he could, you know, if he gets any sort of infection, he will just die, and we just have to wait. There's no buts about it. And if he goes to the hospital, they're all screwed. So
yeah, if he goes to the hospital, so he's told by Gus to go on. He's got what I like too is that Nacho. I like how smart the guy is. He sees what's going on and he calls it out to Gus, and Gus just simply that reaction again. Spoiler. Giancarlo Esposito is so good at playing menacing.
He really is.
Just
the dead look.
Yeah,
the dead look. Well, I mean, you know, I don't know if that's anything.
He walks in closer to him and says, you know, get some rest. You've got more work to do. By the way, speaking of Giancarlo Esposito, if you want to see one of his finest, hardcore, serious
Revolution.
No, like a performance that's completely different than a lot of what you'd see of him in television these days. Not including Community, where he's humorous, but check out Jim Jarmusch's film Night on Earth. It's
I haven't seen
fantastic film. It came out in 1992. It's one of my favorite probably my favorite Jim Jarmusch film. And Giancarlo Esposito, it's like 5 different stories set in taxi cabs, spread all over the world at different times, and like 2 of them are in the U.S. One's in Paris, one's in Helsinki. So maybe it's only 4 stories. No, one's in Italy too, in Rome. And the one in New York is with Giancarlo Esposito. You've never seen a performance like this out of him. It's so good. But yeah, going back to Nacho, man, he's not looking so good in this episode.
Yeah, like at the very end when we see his dad finds him, and oh my gosh, like I really have the feeling that he's either. It's going to be sad if this is the reason he dies because of some infection from this blood gut and it's even worse too because. I mean, the reason why he could have had this is because he has to go in and jump in and help the.
Yeah, because
of the situation.
He tears his wound open.
Yeah.
He tears that gunshot because in the last episode, if you remember, and you do because you watched our episode review, he gets shot. He takes a couple of bullets, one in the shoulder, one in the belly to maintain the appearance.
And the belly one is the one that's going to kill him.
Yeah, the belly one is the one that that's no good. So I feel for this character because even though he's messed around with some dangerous stuff and has hurt people and done things he's probably not too proud of, he seems to have a reasonable amount of intelligence and compassion, actually. So
he has become at least my anti-hero of this season. Yeah, poor Nacho. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this whole scene is really incredible and once again reminiscent of Breaking Bad. Like you were saying before, this whole scene is really great.
So. Or GTA 5. Such a good show. I give this episode definitely 3 stars for sure.
It isn't my favorite episode of the season so far, but I'd have to say the first or second episode are my favorite so far.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a scene midway through the episode where Mike's in the sport group and kind of tells it like it is, and that scene alone is definitely worth watching this show. But if they continue to make every episode as engrossing and compelling as they all have been, this is going to be an excellent season. We're not even at the halfway point yet. I think that's next week. We'll be at the halfway point, but I'm looking forward.
I just love it when we have tons more. When I know that there's still tons more, it sucks when we're on episode 7 or whatever because there's only a few more left. I just love to know that we have tons more of this.
Yeah, on a really good show. On some shows that I check out that I feel like, okay, I've invested in, but oh man, when is this season going to be over? And then other shows, like you, when it gets to around episode 7 or 8, it's like, wow. When they only do 10 or 13 episodes, it's like, wow, we're almost done.
this scene was really, really crazy because you have they're still just kind of hanging out waiting, and he's just, oh my goodness. Anyway, really sad. I'm trying to think of Kim Wexler moments of this. Okay, so that's just essentially her thing was with the judge. That was her main thing. Okay.
Yeah, which was good. That was it was a ballsy thing she did right after being reprimanded and told, you know, get out of here and good luck with your career. That she winds up right back in that.
Any of you who are going to law school, please tell us what is going on there. Is she going to be? Is it something where the judge can literally force her to do things? Can he compel her to do things? Is she going to be in law? Is she going to be in trouble with the law for being there? Like, what exactly is their situation anyway? That's the one of the unanswered, most intriguing things to me in this episode. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I would say I have to say I give this, you know, a 3 out of 4. But yeah, it's what a great season this is so far. And any of you who love Breaking Bad but don't love Better Call Saul, I'm sorry, man. It's sad. I feel bad for you, man. And hopefully, at least you like Better Call Saul because it is Breaking Bad also. So.
Yeah, all I can really add to that statement is I mean, that's fine if you don't watch it or whatever. You won't hear me saying this because you probably won't be interested in this because it's about Better Call Saul. But man, the two just fit together so nicely that it really feels like. It's kind of funny you mentioned that too, because earlier, before we started watching the episode, I was thinking, you know, it's called Better Call Saul, but there are so many characters and subplots that tie into Breaking Bad that it just, I mean, it is Breaking Bad, just different protagonists, you know, it's the rise of Saul Goodman instead of the rise of Walter White, but they fit together so nicely. And sometimes you don't have that in other prequel or sister shows that are set in the same continuity. Sometimes you do. Marvel, Netflix are really good about doing that. Some of the CW, DC shows, but they still act more independently of each other. Where this one really feels like that strong connection to Breaking Bad, and not just in characters, but in tonality, cinematography, the use of music, the use of silence. They complement each other so well that it's a perfect companion piece. It feels like it's absolutely part of the same universe.
Yeah. And so just real quick, this scene, this is something that we thought together, and we were just kind of thinking about it. So this guy is just literally just a dude who is, like you mentioned, like in Fight Club, where it's just a guy that's literally just going
to support group.
And for some weird reason, I guess he gets off on it. He just enjoys,
or has some kind of sick need to go to and lie about. And what I love is that actor is also a semi-regular on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and which is a show that I absolutely love. So it was interesting to see him in here. But yeah, basically Mike calls him out that he's a liar, and then kind of calls sort of bullshit on this whole. He and I kind of actually have similar views on self-help groups. Not to knock anybody. You got to do what you got to do to take care of your brain, but. And he's a lot more harsh than I would be, but they're similar views, and so I got a kick out of that because you can just see the anger, the sadness and anger in his face. Sadness when his daughter-in-law is talking about how she's starting to forget her husband, his son, good cop who was killed a couple of years before this, and you can see right here he's trying to hold back the emotion because he's an old school man's man.
It was a great moment because you do see him react, and that is priceless.
Because again, he's an old school man's man, so he doesn't, you know, Mike wouldn't like a guy like me. We might have similar views on things, but he wouldn't like a guy like me because I could watch something and like, oh, it's so sad, and he would just like, we don't do that. So him just showing that kind of emotion spoke volumes. But then, when this guy starts talking and pretending to try and relate to his daughter-in-law's situation, boy, you see him go from sad, like holding back that sadness and anger, to just being angry. And what I like about Jonathan Banks is he's got that face and that expression where he can pull that off. He could have played most of the entire scene silent. He didn't even have to give a spiel, and I think people in the group would have. Because he's so good. I hope they all get Emmy nominations, man, and for their performances.
I remember at the end of the scene too, I had to chuckle because the last thing he says is, "You wanted me to talk." That's what it's like. You're basically making me talk. I told you didn't want to hear it. You know, type of thing. It's a great moment. So
he warned him. And in the end, he told them, I told you didn't want to hear what I had to say. Well, you asked for it, so here you go.
Anyway, thanks so much for watching. This has been the Fanatics of Film. My name is Ben.
I'm Joe, and as always, like and subscribe. Thanks for coming back, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.